stay strong. I'm finding it hard to resist. So show me what I'm looking for. Save me, I'm lost. Oh Lord, I've been waiting for you. I'll pay any cost. Save me from being confused. Show me what I'm looking for. Show me what I'm looking for.
Ooh. Hi. Making this video is giving me some anxiety. 3 days ago, I was on stage in South Carolina at this conference, and this conference was a bunch of orientation leaders from different schools around the South. And I go on this stage of like over 1,000 people, and I had this moment of like pure fear, anxiety, pure worry about what would happen if I do something wrong, what would happen if I stutter on stage, what would happen if my mic stops working, what happens if I walk out on stage and I trip on the cord and I fall in front of everyone flat on my face. All these what if questions were in my head. And I walk out on stage, and I remember walking out on stage after they called my name and being so at home on that stage. And today I wanted to bring attention to that moment, because being on that stage 3 days ago was like the climax, or the beginning of the climax of my own mental health journey. And I want to talk about my mental health journey in this video for those who are curious, and for those who want to feel more comfortable talking about their own mental health journeys. My mental health journey begins when I was 6 or 7 years old. I had these weird quirks of like being worried about my food touching, worried about my shoes not being tied a particular way, worried about like whether or not I sat in a specific seat in the car because I was worried about getting in a car crash. I had all these weird, like strange worries when I was a kid. When I got into school and really started to take tests and quizzes, that's when like this worry got worse. And the worry started with constantly being worried about if other kids were on the next page and I'm still on question number 1. It was worried about if like the fire alarm would go off and the sprinklers would rain water on my paper. And then it would expand to like thinking that people were always watching me take this test. Well, I would always like pretend that like my anxiety did not exist because I was so ashamed of my anxiety. But I heavily like depended, underneath the surface, I heavily was depending on other people to tell me that I was good enough. But that sense of like validation like kind of made the anxiety go away. And when I got to high school, I mean, I tried to do things that would prove to other people that I was good enough, because that worry of not being good enough, that worry of not being perfect, well, it was so loud, it was so real for me that I would try to be the best basketball player I could be. I wanted to win any contest I could. I was always striving for perfection. I was always striving to be perfect. But under the surface, I just felt so anxious. It was just insecurity. It was just me being insecure, and that wasn't right. That wasn't healthy for me. And then on top of that, outside of competitions, outside of being the best basketball player I could possibly be, outside of joining the speech debate team and really competing to be the best and comparing myself against my own teammates, I started to look to like relationships and people, like romantic relationships, to fill that void of me feeling like I'm good enough. And please y'all, if I'm being too transparent and too honest, like I really feel the need to get this off my chest. Like, this is something I really wanted to say for a very long time, and this is a video I wanted to say for a very long time. And when I really turned to romantic relationships to validate who I was, that was like the peak of my anxiety, because I I always had a sense of anxiety of being in public. I've always had anxiety of performing well in the classroom. Class presentations used to scare the crap out of me. Nah, F all that. It used to scare the shit out of me. Class presentations used to scare the legitimate shit out of me. And honestly, like, when I was speaking competitively in high school, like, that would scare me too. But turning to relationships and trying to find romantic partners who could tell me that I was good enough, who could tell me that I was cute, who could tell me I was attractive, I was relying on that continually to fill that void. And that's not healthy, y'all. Like, that's really, really not healthy. And if I could go back in time to like 3 or 4 years ago and tell myself that, I would, but I didn't. And in high school, when I graduated high school, I met this one girl, and she was like my first real girlfriend. And I really thought, like, wow, like, this person was cool, she was cute, she was beautiful, and she was a cool vibe. And we hung out all the time. There was like a slight age difference, but she was cool. And I found myself always kind of being, I always had this like this angst about being perfect around her. Then when we broke up, because things didn't really work out well, I went off to college, she was still in high school, things didn't really work out well, and I felt really sad. I think it was my sophomore year of college where I felt really depressed. I felt really depressed because I was going through my first heartbreak. I was going through that first breakup. We've all had our first breakup when we lose that person that we fall in love with. And I did bad things when I was depressed. I mean, I remember there were days when I was in college, I would walk outside like in the middle of the night, because my dorm was basically on the upper fields of my college, and I would walk outside to like the upper fields where the lights were pitch black and no one was around, and I would just sit by the fence and I would just cry. And I felt so alone in college, because sophomore year, I think this is true, this is like historically, sophomore year is historically the hardest year, like the hardest year in your college career, in my opinion, looking back. I think that's true across the board, but at my college, it was well known that sophomore year, like, that was bad. That was the worst year of your college career, because like all your curriculums, all that stuff, whatever, it was hard. And I did bad things when I was depressed. Outside of crying, I would overeat, I would be bored, I would heavily turn to like bad things, like masturbating, or just being with other people and hooking up with other people and using other people and like really being toxic. I wasn't into drugs and stuff like that, but I was really turning to people to fill that void inside of me. And that wasn't right. Like, that wasn't healthy, and I didn't know that at the time. And I ended up really getting heavily into like sex, and really turning into, like, I don't want to put a label to it, but I was being very just like not right. And I was sleeping in class. I would even some days skipping class. And the best thing is, no one knew. Like, no one knew what I was going through. Not my friends, not my parents, not my siblings. It was just like, I just hid all of that from everyone. I was really good at masking all of that. Then my junior year of college, like, that's where things took a turn, because I was already in this pattern of turning to people to validate who I was. But then I met this person who just validated me in every sense of the word of validation. I mean, like, this person would walk me to class, this person would surprise me after class, my favorite food, this person would take me out to my favorite restaurants, and like, to the most part, this person who started off as a friend and turned into a romantic partner, she was like everything to me, right? Like, it was everything. And when you're in college and you're experiencing what you think is love, what you think is a new beginning, you really turn to this person, you pour all your energy into this person. And that's what I was doing. I was pouring all of my energy into this person. There was no personal boundaries, and because there was no personal boundaries, and because we spent too much time together, if not every single second of every single day together, I lost all of my close friends. I lost all of my best friends that I had in college. And I didn't know how to deal with that. And losing those friends has had a tremendous impact on my mental health and how I see myself in relationships. Because when I lost those best friends, because I was so infatuated, because I was so into this relationship, it was heartbreaking to like walk on campus and see someone who you used to tell everything to and spend like every lunch break to and like hang out with on the weekends every single weekend. Like, it's weird seeing that person, your former best friend, walking past them as if they're a stranger. It's just, and things were wild. And I didn't realize that when I was in this relationship, although I thought I had found the love of my life or the person that I end up with, I didn't realize that my hygiene was declining, my time management skills were just disappearing. I was staying up at night, so I believe, like, I want to diagnose myself with insomnia, but I believe I was really on this decline in my mental health. I was masturbating even still while in the relationship and not even being like a very present person. I would go like on these weird walks where I just didn't know what I was thinking. And even worse, at my lowest point, I had started to turn to drugs. I started to turn to weed. I started to really think that that was a way to escape these anxious feelings, because not only am I constantly worried about what other people are thinking about me, but now I have this worry, this excessive worry, that this person who I'm depending on for validation and I'm just so in need of, I'm afraid that she's gonna leave. I'm afraid that she's gonna see some flaw in me, that she's gonna wake up one day and just walk out the door. And I didn't know to stomach that, honestly. But that's the thing. When you are excessively in need for external validation, you become like blind to like red flags. For those who might be in a college relationship or who might be in a relationship outside of college, like, I would love to just inspire and just like remind you that the importance of personal boundaries. Because when you codepend on someone so much, when you turn to someone for so much of validation, for support, for reassurance, you really lose your sense of self. And when I was in college, towards the end of my college career, I lost my sense of self. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And the wildest thing is, all these things are happening while everyone else to the outside thinks things are good, right? Like, everyone else thinks, oh, Wes is cool, like, he's excelling. I was student president of my black student union at the time. I was playing basketball. I was being active on campus. Everything looked well, but I was just using those things to mask up how I felt on the inside. I mean, this person who I was dating, this person who I was falling for, well, like, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of arguments, there was a lot of just not, where we weren't on the same level in terms of how we saw how we wanted to live our lives. And it really became destructive to a point where one night, like, it just got out of hand and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to really think for myself, and it got really dangerous, and I ended up being hospitalized for having a big anxiety attack. I realized that the relationship I was in, I mean, I couldn't realize it at the time, but the relationship I was in was extremely toxic. I had become a victim of domestic violence, like that. I didn't know how to take that as a man, and I really was confused. And when I got hospitalized, I learned all these wild things about how to really better manage your mental health, how to better prioritize your mental health, how to make sure that you put yourself first, that self-care is important, that your self-worth is important, that you can tell yourself that you are enough, that you can challenge that story that you tell yourself in your brain every single day. I learned all these things, And I want to pass them on to you, because if you're listening, if you right now are watching this video, if you right now are watching this video, then I want to say that you matter, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are just so needed in this world. Because when I was in that moment of time, like 2 years ago, I didn't know. I felt like I was a burden to other people. I felt like I couldn't talk to other people. I had lost all of my friends. I had depended on a toxic relationship to fulfill my self-worth. It was not good, y'all. It was really not good. And I'm saying all this after going through an abusive relationship, after being hospitalized for a mental breakdown, after writing a book about talking about my anxiety, to now going on stages like that with 1,000 people. I just feel extremely grateful. And I wanted to pick up the camera today and tell you all this, because I'm sick and tired of like putting on these two faces. You already saw the last video or 2 videos ago where I talked about burnout. Like, this video is talking about my mental health journey, because I'm still on this journey. But most importantly, this journey is not about being perfect. It's about making progress. There are days when I feel like shit. There are days when I don't want to get out of bed. There are days when I feel so anxious I bite my nails. There are so many days like that. But now I know how to make them less of a big evil villain in my life. And I really try to learn how to coexist with those feelings. So thank you for listening to all this. This was my mental health journey, and I love y'all, and I hope to continue to have you listening to these stories, because it does matter. Mental health conversations matter, and more importantly, you matter. Oh, we should probably get to the giveaway winner now. So the winner of $100 Venmo straight to you is my guy Dario. My guy Dario, thank you so much for watching the videos. I appreciate you. $100 is on the way to you, my friend. I love you, miss you, bro. Stay tuned for next week's video for another fun, cool giveaway. Until then, always remind yourself, if no one has ever told you today, that you are enough.